Good morning. Today we're going to be reading the story of the Good Samaritan. I'm sure you've all heard this story before, but we're going to take a look at it in a different context today. We're going to consider the Good Samaritan story through the lens of social justice. So first, I will read through it, and this is a retelling of Luke chapter 10, verses 25 through 37. A lawyer asked Jesus, "What must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus answered, "What is the law? What do you read there?" The lawyer answered, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." Hoping to trick Jesus, the lawyer asked, "Who is my neighbor?" Jesus responded with a story. A Jewish merchant bid his family farewell and left Jerusalem early one morning to travel to Jericho, where he would bring his goods to market. He left early, his dark donkey laden with goods for the market. He was anxious because he had to travel over the 18-mile Jericho road. The Jericho road went through steep, rocky terrain that had plenty of places where robbers could hide and ambush unsuspecting travelers. The merchant wanted nothing more than to get to Jericho quickly and safely so he could sell his goods. He had traveled a couple hours and had reached a desolate section of the steep, rocky road when suddenly a gang of robbers jumped out from behind a rock. They stole his merchandise and then went on to beat him and take his food, his water, and even the clothing off his back. They went away and left him for dead. After a while, a priest chanced to walk down the road. He had finished his temple service and was headed home for a well-deserved rest. When he saw the merchant, he was not sure at first if he was dead or alive. He paused for a moment to consider what to do. If the man is dead, he thought, then if I touch him, I will be unclean. Purification rituals will take a week, and I will be unable to do my job at temple. He convinced himself that the man was either dead or near to it, and that it would serve no good purpose to get any closer to the man than he already was. He passed by on the other side of the road. A while later, a Levite, a temple official, happened down the road. He too saw the merchant's body. He could see signs of shallow breathing, so he knew the man was alive. He considered stopping to help, but then he thought, he is too badly hurt to just give him some water and food and send him on his way. He might very likely die in my arms, and then I will have a serious problem. I will need to do something about his body, and I will also be unclean and have to purify myself before I can get back to my work at the temple. He looked away from the man and passed by on the other side of the road. And then a Samaritan was traveling down the road and saw the man. He took pity on him, even though Samaritans and Jews generally hated one another. So the Samaritan gave the Jewish merchant water gently and slowly, and the man began to revive. The Samaritan poured oil and wine on the man's wounds and bandaged them. He gently put the man on his own donkey and brought him to an inn, where he cared for him for 2 days. When the Samaritan had to leave, he paid the innkeeper generously for the merchant's room and board while he recovered, saying, "If this is not enough, I will pay you the balance when I come back this way." So after telling the story, Jesus asked the lawyer, which of these three was a neighbor to the man who fell among robbers? And the lawyer replied, "The one who showed him mercy." Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise." So think about the story a bit, and with whom do you most identify in the story? And try to be really honest with yourself. You might not identify the most with the Samaritan. Also, we as humans are not static beings, and we're always changing and reacting to things differently. And there are likely times in your life when you have acted like the Samaritan, and other times that you may have acted like the priest or the Levite. So I want you to think about any times you might have acted like any three of these men. And pause the video for a minute if you need to think about it over a little. And then consider this question for society as a whole too. So what are situations when our society has acted like the Samaritan, the priest, or the Levite? We all have had times when we've likely acted more like the Levite or the priest than the Samaritan. So what do we do with that? We could let it make us feel inadequate. Like, oh, I can't believe I did that. I'm so awful. And, that we didn't do what we should have done. Or we can use our past actions as a lesson for our future and let those times we're not like the Samaritan energize us and give us new resolve to do right next time. And maybe the next time we see an injustice, we won't simply stand to the side and shake our heads in dismay, but actually take action by thinking back on those times in the past when maybe we should have, but we didn't. So think back to the story again, and what were the injustices that occurred in the story? The most obvious might be the thieves robbing the merchant, or the injustice done by the Levite and the priest by not wanting to get themselves dirty by touching and helping the merchant. But going a little bit deeper, maybe it was something else, or maybe there was other injustices in this story. Maybe the injustice is that the robbers lived in a society in which they are not able to meet their needs. So in order to eat, they had to rob people for money or they would die themselves in order to buy food. Or maybe they had been treated badly themselves. Or maybe the thieves became thieves because they had been looked down on by society and didn't have opportunities to do anything because of that. And they took it out on others like the merchant. Or maybe it was a bit of all of these things all mixed up together. So the point is, when identifying injustice, it's really important to look at the whole wider story of what's going on. Because if we're going to fight injustice, we have to know the real root of it and the context around it as well. And then we can start to do something about it. So that's it for today. Have a great week and see you next time.